All righty. So, hello, welcome everybody. This is the kickoff for the conversations with the Oracle. We did a test a month ago, and what I found is that it took about a minute or so for the stream on my end to kind of settle and look clear. So I'm going to give it about a minute. I'm going to jump on IG and just let folks know that we are on while that happens. But of course, I would love for those who are going to be joining live, if you can let us know in the comments how the stream is looking. If for some reason, when we finish this live, it's, the video quality is not up to par, then we'll do these conversations privately, and then I'll just upload them up to YouTube after we do the conversations, because, the conversations are important, but the quality is also important for you to be able to see it. So, so definitely let me know, again, for those of you who are joining in, as we go throughout this, keep me posted about the quality of the video. So let folks know, remind them on IG real quick. And then 1 second. Hey everybody, it's Jynnette the Oracle. Come on over to YouTube, my YouTube channel, as we are kicking off Conversation with the Oracle today with Diahnna Nicole Baxter. See you there. Click the link in my bio to go directly. Bye. Hey everybody, it's Jynnette the Oracle. Come on over to YouTube. I love this captions. As we are kicking off Conversation with How are you? See you there.
Are we live right now?
To go directly.
I said, are we live right now?
Jynnette the Oracle. Yeah. Come on over to YouTube, my YouTube channel. We are kicking off Conversation with the Oracle today. You're breaking up a bit? See you there. Click the link in my bio to go directly.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah. Hey everybody, it's Jynnette the Oracle. Come on over to YouTube, my YouTube channel. It was just a little Hello, Monique. Monique 1383. I know who that is, but I won't say your name unless you wanted me to say it. Can you let me know how the stream is looking? Is it clear now? Because we've been on for about a minute or so, so I'm hoping that it's good. Hello to the Soul Family coming in. You know how we roll. Even though this is a new series, it's still Soul Family. So when you come in, you say hello. Don't just come up in people's house and then not say anything. So come in, say hello. Let us know where you're joining from, what you are sipping on, what you might be snacking on. Diahnna and I are both joining from Southern California. I have a chaga latte. What are you sipping on, Diahnna?
I don't have anything I'm sipping on yet. Go
get some water or something.
Hold on, y'all.
Yeah. All right. Hello, Sass, Alicia Curl. Beautiful. So for the folks who are coming in, please let me know how the stream quality is looking on my side. I think Diahnna's is fine, but let me know how mine is looking, if I'm clear or not. Yay, video's clear. That's awesome. Yeah, when we did the test, it was fuzzy in the beginning, but then it smoothed out. So I just wanted to make sure. Sass is joining from London, UK. The UK in the house. You're having some wine. Listen, enjoy the wine. Are you doing a white wine or a red wine? Hello, Lori. Thank you for letting me know. It looks great. I appreciate it. April, where are you joining from? Say, please. Alicia, where are you joining from? Yay, glad to see that's clear. Awesome. I know there's a bit of a delay, but okay. So we will only be on here for an hour. That I am making that commitment. So I'm holding myself to it, because that's the only time I scheduled in my my calendar. So I will not go over that time. So we'll stop a minute or two beforehand just to make sure that we do so. Everything is clear now. Sound was breaking up earlier, but all good now. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes, red wine. Diahnna, are you actually able to see the comments or no?
No, I'm not able to see the comments.
Oh.
I know.
Okay, well, I'll as they come up, I will speak them.
Oh,
So,
oh, I can see them if I go to them.
oh, perfect.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah.
Yay. Okay, so since this is a new thing, this is going to be a year of all sorts of new things. So just be ready for, oh no. She kicked herself out. All right, we'll wait till she comes back on. But I'll continue. This is going to be a year of, here we go.
I'm not going to switch to the comments because apparently I kick myself off when I try to come back. So.
It's all right. I'll speak the comments so that you know. April's joining from Florida and she's drinking water. Awesome. Thank you, April. I also have my water too. You know, I stay with the water on deck. Okay, so since this is a new ting, I was mentioning there's going to be lots of new newness from Anderson Alchemy this year. So just be on the lookout for rolling announcements for those things. Welcome, India, drinking water in Jacksonville. Thank you for joining. Yay. Are y'all like literally in the same place cackling at the computer together? So, but for this, the idea for this series actually came out of a conversation that I had with Diahnna last month. Oh my God, this was last year. It feels like so much has just happened in the last 2 weeks. So much has happened in the last 2 weeks.
Oh.
Today is going to be the talk about all the things that have happened and are happening. Oh yes, okay. April is saying yes, they're together. Yay, country sister love. So this came out of a conversation that I had with Diahnna last month. So if you're new to me and you have not seen that conversation, you can find that on my Instagram page. You can just go to Anderson Alchemy on IG, and you'll see it on the under the list of live videos. But basically, she was asking, as many people have literally asked me over the past decade, if not more, when am I writing a book? And when I tell you, people keep asking me when I'm writing a book, like it's a thing. So as I was speaking in that, one of the things that I realized what was difficult for me is that there is so much that I do know because I'm just a constant learner and constant active experiencer of life, right? And so much and so many people that I've been exposed to. It's kind of hard to figure out what to pull down and what to bring in and all of that. And I find that when I'm in conversations with others, things just naturally flow, right? Because there's a relationship that's being established. It's not just me with myself. And as I've been sitting with that, that really struck me as profound because, as you know, if you've been following me for a while, you know I say that, you know, our success is collective, our healing is collective. Everything is collective. So it would make sense that if I am going to birth something as simple as a book, which should be, you know, and when we think about it, it's a, you know, I write a book. It's not an I, it is a we. And what would that process look like to actually have it be something that is birthed from the relationships with those that I have in my life, rather than me just sitting, you know, at a desk and in my mind trying to decide what's important and what's not important. So there's that. So that's the broad container for this space, is that it is intended to draw out or extricate wisdom for a book in the future. And I do actually want, with each person that I'll be speaking with each month, to have them featured in the book, you know, because we are not made in isolation, right? Who we are is crafted in relationship to our environment, and our environment is also the people in our lives. And when you're someone like me who purposefully cultivates relationships with people, especially in a more personal, intimate level, there are things that are going to come up that are not going to come up when I'm speaking to folks as Jynnette the Oracle, right? There's different conversations that are going to be had. So there definitely will be Oracle things, I'm sure, that, I will say and will mention. But this is definitely to be a conversation series that dives into all the things. So, stuff around money, stuff around love and relationships, stuff around health, um, politics, the planet, like all the things, as well as whatever spiritual stuff might come up, but like the full gamut, because that's who I am. Yeah. So for today, because it's also the first session back in the new year, I figure we should ease into this by talking about endings and beginnings. So looking back over the past year, and when I say past year, I'm really thinking of the last 2 years, because 2020 and 2021 has just been one long year. And what is beginning? And if you're anything like me, and I know Diahnna, like we're just gonna riff with this. For the folks who are watching, whether live or later, there's been a lot of change that's happened, not only in the last quarter, which is the beginning of a new spiritual year, if you follow me, right? Autumn equinox is our new year. But especially in December with this eclipse and everything, like there's just been so much change. So I'm excited to talk about this, and we'll see where the conversation goes. I'm sure as we go along, like Spirit will drop in like specific things that we can use as starting points, but I figured this would be the easiest way to start this process. So how does that feel for you, Diahnna?
It feels good. It feels very apropos. It's interesting when you were speaking about how you might not have used these exact words, but what I heard was how our identities are crafted, right? It's like you said, it's not an I, it's a we, and how our identities are crafted, and how many deaths we go through with identities. And I know for me, the last month, December, was just a lot of death of a few identities, right? Um, I shared with you, and I'll share with your audience right now, that, I, for a long time, didn't know who my biological father was. I was told it was one person, found out in my 30s it wasn't him, thought it was another person. My whole family thought it was this other guy. Never heard back from this man, even though I reached out to him. And then right when I came back from Kenya, there's so much. There's so much. Right when I came back from Kenya, I sent in an ancestry.com, and I chose Ancestry specifically just because it tends to be the largest database. So if there's a hit, there's a hit. And sure enough, boom, there's your father. And I'm like, what? Now, this is a man that my mom's like, I don't know who the hell that is, right? I showed her a picture over the holidays. She's like, I think I might know him. He looks familiar. I don't remember though. And once again, it throws the whole, like, who are you? Who am I? How do I define myself? And now this man who I looked up is some white Trump supporting, right? Yes, like straight up, illegals are taking our job. Like, what? Okay, Spirit, what is this about? And what does that say about how, or not, about how I see myself? And then also, I get to give myself the space to mourn the death again of the identity of my little girl and who daddy is or isn't or will ever be, right? I specifically asked Spirit, I think it was autumn equinox, of course, to heal my divine masculine. I have been doing a lot of work over the past 2 years, coming back into, and I'm talking about this in polarity sense, but we know that it's not that black and white, right? Just to preface that, because I feel like in the spiritual community right now, it's like divine feminine, divine masculine, the opposites. And I'm like, no, it's anyways. But, I had swung into and done a lot of work on healing that part of myself that felt like I had to do, and wasn't able to be. And so really had done a lot of healing around my receptivity and my divine feminine, what have you. And what I noticed in that is that I had gone so extreme on this side of this pendulum that it was just time to come back and marry the two at the heart, right? To really come back into a balance of aligned action, structure, more support for me to be in this space of being, right? So I was like, Spirit, I need a healing of my masculine. And Spirit was like, here you go. And so within that, there's just another death happening with me right now. Again, of a constructed identity that after the first dad, okay, it's not him. And that was the biggest one, right? Because that was, it was a Black man. Um, uh, uh, he also had believed for the most that he was my father, and wasn't available. Had the whole story around being an abandoned little girl who daddy wasn't around, and da 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 da. Then he's not daddy. Then who are you? Who are you in relation to this identity construct? And then what do you get to create for yourself when you're really choosing your chosen family, your identity, how you want to be in the world, right? So for me, this last month has been deaths of men in my life, not only the construct of daddy and who that is, and really who it is now. And on top of that, this man, I'm being blatantly ignored, right? So my little girls also, it could look like a reliving of an abandonment. That's not what's happening though, right? It's like, okay, so how do you nurture those parts of yourselves where it feels like the same trauma is happening when it's not? And then really giving the space for the grief of that. It's deaths that are happening when we really start to step into a new version of ourselves, right? Or becoming more and more of ourselves. It's deaths that's happening. So providing that space for mourning, right? And then I go to take care of my grandparents, my granddaddy, who's always been the rock in my life, who's been my masculine, right? And I'm watching him come into early Alzheimer's. And so there's a death happening there. And so there's just, listen, I asked for the healing, and here it is. So that's how my last few weeks have been going. How's yours been going?
So we're gonna let that sit for a second. I'm gonna read this comment from Sass. Greetings, Cherise. Welcome, welcome. Let us know where you're joining her from and what you're sipping on. Sass was quoting you, said, heal that part of me that wants to do, and not just be going through that journey right now. Oh, you have Capricorn placements too, I believe. Earth energy, just, I get it. And I know this last transit of the Gemini and Sag has not been easy for Earth energy. Yeah, so much death. So much death. There's so many things I want to get into, but what I wrote down, which popped up, was this thing about support. When we talk about the divine masculine principle, not in terms of gender, but in terms of coming out of the pendulum swing of going through the polarities, which are all part of the same spectrum, but we can definitely swing. And like you said, meet and marry at the heart of the two. And the function that that principle plays of providing support is important. So, for one, I definitely resonate with what you're going through, because as I've told you before, and everyone, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I went through something not quite the same, but something similar with my father popping back into my life after like literally a generation, 30 years. And that was during the Cancer and Capricorn transit. That was hard. And yeah, you definitely relive it, because it's just like, there's an access that each of our direct roots has to us, literally at a physical level, because they're 50% of our DNA, and emotionally and mentally and spiritually. Like, I mean, we're made of the two and the rest, but like, those are our direct roots. So it can't help but hit close to home.
Yeah.
Regardless of what stuff is happening with either parent, like it can't help but do that. So there's that exposure, but there's also a grown ass woman.
Yes.
And what was helpful for me at the time, and what I was so appreciative for Spirit bringing to my awareness, to the forefront of my awareness, is like how many amazing men have in my life, who I've cultivated, who were the ones who were actually providing guidance and support and insight into the situation. It wasn't actually the women. Not that I wasn't leaning on women, not that I didn't know, but it was the men that I had brought into my life who are in more intimate space, personal space, who were guiding me through that. And I got a chance to see, like, oh, I do have healthy masculine energy in the male gender form, right? And I do know what it looks like. I do know what it means to be supported. Like, I don't question at all that, like, if something happened, like, they would show up for me in any way, shape, or form. So not only crisis, but also just in living, like, they support me. They should, like, it's there. And so, like, while there was pain, I was still able to sit in a lot of solidness within myself because, and be able to choose to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this stage in the game, like, when someone is, several decades old than you and they're used to being a certain way, there's no change happening unless there's no change that happens anyway unless it's self-motivated. But it's definitely not happening after like several decades unless there's like a major crisis that pops up. And I know Spirit's not about to do that because that's not the lesson. Right? Like, Spirit's not about to like have there be this radical experience that, our parents who don't show up in the way that we prefer have to like change and all of a sudden become who we would prefer them to be. Like, that's not going to happen for the most part. So being able to accept what is showing up and making a decision based off of that, of like, I am not willing to try, because me trying would be me trying to manipulate you to show up differently than how you are. And as much as I would want that, I would still always question it, because it'd be like, oh, are you only doing that because I told you, or are you doing that because that's on your heart? Right? And ultimately, we want consent in our relationships.
Talk about it. Yes. And how often do we do that in the dynamics of romantic relationships as well?
Mm-hmm. Hi, Jasmine. Jasmine Trailer just joined.
Yeah. How often do we do that? You said something specific and it just went out of my head right now. Consent and it not being about manipulation, right? To try to have them show up in the way that we want. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is a lesson on a deep, in every relationship, whether it be with the masculine gender or whatever intimate relationship period, is the grown ass, I'm speaking for as a woman, the grown ass woman in me. I've done the work. I know how to take care of my little girl now. So even when she is in pain and needs to be expressed and whatever, and might have all the stories going on, I'm not good enough and all of this, I know how to take care of her now. So, whether it be with our daddies, whether it be with the other men in your life, whether it be with other women in your life, whatever intimate relationships it is, it's like really paying attention to that little girl and at the same time coming back into the power of the grown woman, mm-hmm. and then choosing from that place and being very transparent about what you're asking for, mm-hmm. so that you get the consent.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to be like, I don't want to ask for that because that's mm-hmm. going to scare them away. Or I don't want to, it's the way we learn, especially those of us that have been abandoned, mm-hmm. a certain way, we learn to not really ask. We learn to kind of shift to just, well, at least they're calling or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Unlearn that is your liberation.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like even, there's a part of me right now, I'm still processing all this, right? But there's a part of me right now where I'm like, grown ass woman's like, I don't want to have nothing to do with that man, right? It's like grown ass woman's like, what is this adding to your life, right? Little
Mm-hmm.
girls, but I just want to look him in the eyes and see myself in someone else, and da 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 da. But why doesn't he want me? And what, like, all that. And it's like, and I get to give her that space. Sorry, it's so. Are you hearing that? It's really loud.
Not really. It's just like a hum in the back, but it's not. Yeah.
It's loud to me, but good. But that consent, and we can only give consent when we're being really radically honest about what we're asking for.
Yeah. And that right there is actually what wisdom that one of my friends drops during that time, because he was like, you know, what do you want? Because I was dropping back into that like complacency of at least he's here, and we're just kind of going through the motions. We're role playing basically, like we're role playing, um, which is the Capricorn. And the negative side is just like, it's the archetype of the thing, you know, it's like, I'm in this role, so I do this, and like, you're in that role, you do that, and there's no heart. That's the negative side. Not all Capricorns are like that, right? But the thing is like, oh, like what does it mean to be father? What does it mean to be daughter, right? And so that's like having that brought to my attention was earth shattering, but it was so healing, because I was like, oh, what will my little girl like? And so I had to make a list, and I emailed, and of course he couldn't show up in that way, and just, you know, the gaslighting and all the things. So that in itself was painful, but it also was good, because it immediately like lit this fire of anger. And I was just like, oh, you actually don't respect the role that you're just trying to play, much less me. We're not about to do this right now. I'm not interested. Right?
Yeah.
Like it became really clear. It became really clear, like the words that were, because he has a very manipulative energy, but it's like the words that you're saying are not matching with the actions. And yeah, and you're right. Like there has to be courage to be honest about what would that look like for me. And it might seem silly or not important to somebody else, but it's important to me.
Yes.
Right. And then being able to have the courage to even speak that or write that or whatever is huge. And I hadn't realized that I was doing that until it was brought to my attention. And I see that as a pattern and I'm sure those of you who have similar experiences of abandonment and the overachieving aspect, we do a lot of performing. We do a lot of, this is good enough. This is better than what my mom had or what the ones before me had. So I should be happy with 51%, even though I'm dealing with 49% of shit.
Yeah.
Right. So no, thank you for bringing that forward. And it's so difficult, because our conditioning, but also like for some of us, depending on our histories, the threat of violence.
Exactly.
No, that wasn't my history, so yeah. So it's not a small thing. I know it can kind of get talked about, like, you know, say how you really feel and like be clear about what you want, but like there are visceral memories in our body, whether of our own personal experience or that which has been passed down in recent history in our families on either side, about the consequences of authenticity.
Ooh, you better preach. Oof. We don't talk about that, right? And listen, I'm the first one. Authentic self. Unleash your authentic voice. Speak your truth. Yes, 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 yes. And there has been consequences in most of our lineages of speaking your truth and showing up authentically. And those consequences are often being death or extreme violence, you know.
Or being extricated from the family.
Right. I know my mother has that wound, you know, or it's shifted now, but she had that definitely. Like, oh, I'm free, authentic self, but then you're shamed for that and shunned for that and dirtied for that. Like, oh, I'm never doing that again. Or hey, it's not safe. Well, don't, you know, just put on a face. Act like you know? Oh, I love that, Jynnette. And I didn't, it's so specific. Consequences of authenticity. I don't think we talk about that enough. Because the truth is,
Yeah,
you
go
know,
ahead.
speaking about this past year too, and the masculine, what have you, this year for me, as far as, you know, my lovers, all but one were amazing. They were much level up compared as far as what I'm calling in and what I want, and all of that. Healing sex, orgasmic sex, just deep conversations, like just feeling safe, like all of it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Mm,
So I know there's healing happening even by what is showing up.
that part.
I'll tell you quickly, right? You know there's healing happening for what's showing up. And I don't know where this was going. It was going based on something you said, but I'm losing my train.
About the consequences of authenticity.
Consequences of yeah. And even in that, having enough courage to know this isn't it. And when I say isn't it, I don't think there's one thing out there that's it, right? But you know if it's if it's really in alignment or not.
Mhm.
And there's that part of me that just wants that codependency, that abandoned little girl who just wants you there to tell me I'm beautiful and make me feel cute and wanted and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But no more of that. Like, it does take courage, and it hurts.
Mhm.
It But guess what? Someone's like, I don't choose you. I got that this year too. Like, yeah, this ain't it. You know? It's like, wait a minute.
Mhm.
I'm done letting you know this ain't it. Shit, you know? But it's like, it's every time to really, I believe, to really live this life intentionally. Yes, there's boundaries. Yes, protect your energy. And you have to show, I personally believe you have to keep showing up with an open heart. And
Yeah.
that takes a lot of courage because, yeah, I've been heartbroken a lot this year. And I'm finding beauty in that. It's not a heartbreak anymore that is coming from a place because I didn't show up to ask for what I want. I'm showing up very clear. So it's a pure heartbreak that's really beautiful and painful, but also beautiful, and more of an opening, even more,
Mhm.
which almost causes a deeper surrender into knowing that what is for you is coming.
Mhm.
But
The what's interesting about this is there's always at least a positive or another way to look at things than what we're experiencing. So even with uh, what we were just talking about with the consequences of authenticity and the pushback that might have come from family members, friends, society, whatever. But more so, we'll talk about more personal relationships, family and friends, especially family. While yes, definitely judgment and pain that's there, there also is a root of love in it for wanting to protect us
mm-hmm.
from the current environment that we're in. And we can think about that even currently, like the conversations that mothers of Black sons have to have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, be free, be your authentic self, and like all of that within limits.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's also important that not to excuse, problematic behavior, but we do also have to keep in mind, the men and the women who were doing these things, what world were they living in, and what wisdom were they imparting to us imperfectly
Yes.
from
Yes.
the place of wanting to keep us safe.
Imparting to us imperfectly. Girl, this book gonna be so good. Woo! Because I saw that these past couple weeks. I've been with my grandparents, taking care of them, caregiving them, and witnessing my grandmother and I. This is probably the first like that we've had. She's had to depend on me, right? And it's a lot for her. Witnessing my mother in her and how imperfectly she, shared her wisdom with my mother, and I understand it now, rather than, oh, grandma was cold as hell to my mom, right? No, 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 no. She was really trying to protect her because my mom was so free, where it was just like, oh God, this little girl. And I see it now, and then I see, seeing my grandmother, my granddaddy's dynamic, even with his mind kind of going now, and the way that he still will get, like, something in him gets up to make sure he can safely walk her to the bathroom in the middle of the night with her broken, like, watching them shuffle down the hall together, witnessing my grandmother who, when we were younger, we used to call her Ice Queen, because she just didn't seem, when you think of grandma, like, oh, grandma's so sweet. Nah, grandma's. And even this trip, how many times she was like, don't make me cry. I don't like to cry. I don't like and then her telling stories about growing up as, a poor Southern woman, and talking about how she's like, I didn't care. I didn't sit in the back of the bus. And meanwhile, I'm looking at her, I'm like, well, you're very light-skinned, grandma. You not sitting in the back of the bus is a different story than a darker-skinned woman. She's like, well, yes, maybe, but I wasn't, just all of this. It's just been such a gift to be with them the past couple of weeks, because first of all, I'm witnessing my own history and how much richness I come from, and how much sacrifice has been there, and how, like you even said, like, I have had my daddy, right, my masculine, and witnessing him take care of his wife in their late 80s, losing their mind, and still show. It's like, no, you've had these beautiful, loving examples of committed relationship, of the masculine protecting the feminine actually being in her power, right? And all of the stuff that I might have judged when I was younger, that, like, grandma's like this, da, da, da. And now I can see how it was absolutely necessary for their survival, and for me to even be here. These types of behaviors, of protections, of, you can't be authentic, don't tell family secrets, we don't speak about that, we don't do this, like, all of those things. I wouldn't be here if they didn't behave that way, and yet I'm now here holding space for others to break certain of those patterns. So it's deep. I don't know if I
Yeah.
made sense, but it's deep.
Yes, completely. And what's wild, like, so two things that came up. One is that that knowledge that, we were the genetic connection that we have to our grandmothers. Right? Because as I'm sure you guys have known or seen the meme about, like, when our grandmas were pregnant with our moms, like, they already had the eggs. So we were already there. So the connection we have with our grandmothers, which is why, again, if you worked with me, especially over the last few years, and in particular in the incubator, the connection through the maternal line is massive in terms of spiritual power. Like, we don't understand how massive it is. And then her connection with her own grandmother, right?
Which
like, you get that by proxy.
Which is so crazy, because and I'm going to be doing, well, you already know, but doing some even deeper ancestor work. It just keeps getting deeper anyways. Because I also found out, my grandmother shared with me, she's like, oh yeah, Grandma Hill, so Luna Bell, who I sit with all the time, didn't know who her father was. I was like, what? Here we go. Patterns getting passed down. My granddaddy doesn't know who his daddy is.
I mean, but also we got to think about this, like, slavery.
Well,
how would they know?
Of course, because of course I asked that too. I was like, so what do you mean? What do you mean she didn't know her father was? It's like, she was like, well, we don't talk about those things, Diahnna. I don't know. I was just like, oh, right. Maybe she damn well knew who her father was. That's something. It's like, right?
Yeah. Are the roots of your family primarily situated in certain parts of the country?
Yes, North Carolina. I mean,
that's so. I already wrote down for next week, because we're not going to open this can right now. This is going to be topic for next week, is dealing with lineages that we don't align with.
Girl, yes, please.
For pretty much all of us who have mixed lineage, and if you Black in this country, You got mixed lineage, like that's gonna be a topic for next week. So everybody who's watching here live and on the recording, tell your friends, tell your friends, tell your friends to come here next week so we can start unpacking that. Let me read through these comments real quick before we jump back in. Let's see, we got a lot of folks who are joining us. Let's see, April wrote, I should be happy with 51% with the emoji like, that was a line, that was a word, that line hit me too. Consequences of authenticity, yes. Let's see, Butterfly Generations, which is Zakari. Welcome, Zakari. Sipping ginger tea, being healed by the convo. Thank you. Fastal says, you two are so beautiful. Thank you. You're writing a book. Oh my God, can't wait. Yep. Imparting imperfectly. Yes, 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 yes. Let's see. Where is the line? This is from April. Where is the line of compassion for the imperfect protection and accountability? And that is a line that everybody actually has to create for themselves, because, you know, you may just really be somebody who's just like, no full stop across the board. And you are perfectly within your right to feel that way. And for others, it may be lots of compassion and understanding with boundaries. So, you know, it really just can depend, but that is something that you have to answer for yourself, as opposed to looking for the spiritually appropriate answer.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Jynnette. And I think it's something that also, it changes.
Yeah.
I know for me, the journey with my mother, specifically, you know, when I found out the truth that the man wasn't my father, and then the way she reacted, and all of these things, like I had a time where it was like, no, full stop, cut off. Like, I, you're not owning your part. You're like, this is silly. Fuck you. Full stop.
Mhm.
Until I needed that space to work with myself. And then boom, it was like, let you back in, but with these boundaries. And then it came to a place of like, okay, I've practiced that. I've taught her now what I'm will tolerate and will not, or whatever. That's the wrong word. But yeah, basically. And now it's like, now I've come into just a radical acceptance of who she is. Like, and even with this new information and the way she's treating it, me 7 years ago would be a mess and angry at her and be like, you don't know, you don't fucking know. Now you're acting like this is funny. And now I'm just, this is her. This is this is what she's capable of. And there's no even judgment around it anymore, because I've done the work to be able to show up as a grown ass woman for myself with that, relate to her as grown ass woman to grown ass woman. And then also as the little girl with the mom, just to have radical acceptance. This is what she's capable of.
Mhm.
I've had to learn how to mother myself in the ways that she still can't show up for herself.
Mhm.
So I think fluid, like it changes. And there is no right answer, like you said, Jynnette. It really is, you get to choose for yourself what is right for you right now, as far as what you need in order to take care of yourself. But the beauty, I think, eventually comes from and this is an eventual thing, just a radical acceptance. You might not ever get what you want from this person, this parent, this partner. You might not ever get the apology or the closure or the da da da. They might not ever understand your experience of part of what the consequences of their actions were in your life. You might not ever truly understand that.
Mhm.
You get to choose how much you let in, what kind of behaviors you'll tolerate, and if the relationship, and I don't care if it's family or not, if the relationship is too toxic to have in your life, because sometimes it is straight full stop, no, you have no access.
Mhm.
And it's painful, and it's okay.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. One of the things I remember now as you were talking, that the part of what I know that still pops up for me every once in a while is dealing with the pain of the continued choice to suffer
You know.
when circumstances have actually changed. And it's just like, okay, I get it 50 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe even 20. But it's literally not the same anymore.
Yeah.
And there is absolute commitment to just maintain suffering. And it's just like, oh, that not as often, because it's used to be a lot more, but like that still will pop up for me. And I'm just like, you're still here. Okay. And there's no need, like practically, not even like, change of mindset. It's just like, oh no, like the world has shifted, your circumstances have shifted, like you're actually in a better place right now. And all you know is just choosing suffering for self.
Mm.
And
It's
there's still nothing I can do about that.
that's painful. It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's nothing, the realization when you really accept there's nothing you can do, God is where they are,
Mm-hmm.
their journey. Mm, that's the acceptance. Acceptance isn't apathy. I think people confuse that sometimes. Like, I accept it. No.
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance is also like, mm, it can be painful. It's a radical compassion.
Yeah, I would say that's where the energy is now. Like it hurts to see, but not to the point to fight,
Right.
because I understand it's just like, oh no, this is actually a conscious choice. I need to actually respect that,
Yes.
because you might actually have gone as far as you
Mm,
needed to go in this life and you're just chilling until it's time to go.
yeah.
Like there might not be anything else in the soul assignment.
Mm.
You might have already done what you've come to do.
And respect the other's choice, even if you don't agree with it, and even if you can see that it's a harmful choice for them. And you can say, like, speak up. But you know what I'm saying? But they get to choose
Mhm,
about if you agree with it or not.
mhm. Let's see. Zakari writes, the cycle of suffering is what's calling me to distance myself from my maternal line for years. I can't take the disconnection from self and anxiety anymore. It's tough. This convo is such a confirmation for me.
Mm.
Yeah, it's hard. And what you're speaking earlier, Diahnna, about, the stoicism. You didn't use the word, but I'll say that.
Thank you. That's the language. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Yes, that's
Oh
what
wait,
it.
the audio dropped out.
No, I said she's writing a book, y'all. She's writing a book. No, the stoicism. That's the perfect word. When I think of my grandmother right now, this woman who cannot bathe herself and will probably try to break another bone just to not let anybody help her. Like the stoicism. Sorry, go ahead. That's what it is.
But I mean, again, like as I was talking about earlier, like there is another component of it that was birthed from the environment and the circumstances. Like, what would cause that level of rigidity when that's not our natural state? Because it's truly not. Like, we don't come out the womb stoic.
Right.
We don't. So, like that is a necessary adaptation
Absolutely.
to survive. And that, of course, can be painful to watch because it's just like, you're not there anymore. But, as I'm going to be preaching to myself now, when that's been the bulk of your life, and we know this because of our own healing process and supporting others in their healing, what it takes to unravel and soften.
Mm.
It's hard enough for us, and we have all the resources and the language and like the communities and like it's
Yeah.
hard enough for us their stuff for decades longer than us, though. Without that, this is so new. And then being able to unpack that, to start chipping away.
Yeah, she's like, does she don't want to do that? Why? Why? It's like, Diahnna, I don't, you know, like, I'm turning on my TV. Me
Yeah.
and Daddy have built a life where nobody can take anything away from us. We started with 2 nickels, nothing but not even 2 nickels to rub together, right? I can hear her now. I am fine with the life we have built. We are so blessed. I am grateful, and nobody's going to tell me anything, right? I mean,
And
and
respect.
except thank you, Grandma, because I
Yeah.
can get up here and have a conversation online about
Mm-hmm.
all of this.
Mm-hmm.
How much freedom you have afforded me. I mean, really. Thank you. Right? Mhm.
Ooh, the strength of our mothers and fathers.
The strength and their sacrifices. I just, mm,
And this is why I'm so passionate about folks stepping into their power and um, reclaiming what wasn't able to be experienced and going for their dreams and making more money and just all the things, because it's like you are literally disrespecting all of that effort. Like they're please hear me out. There was a conversation that the family had, and when I say family, I mean like the family
mm,
of lineages. And some folks chose to be the ones to hold things steady. And others of us came through to bear the light. We're the preserved light.
mm.
We weren't born during those times because our light would have been snuffed out. We were too soft. And it's not a bad thing, but we were the softness, we were the innocence, we were the heart.
Mm. Mm.
So we could come through now and not be taken out.
Mm.
Because we wouldn't survive. Like I know clearly I would not have survived living in those conditions.
Mm.
As much as I have struggled with like the little things that have happened in this life, comparatively, like I would not have survived. Just clearly. So, but it's there's nothing and no one to save.
Amen.
Because no one is weak. A weak soul can't do what they did and do what they do currently. Those without powers would not have been able to do it and continue to do it. So please, please, y'all, if you hear nothing else, if you join no other conversation,
Mhm.
please understand the importance of preserving your innocence, preserving your heart, preserving your light, preserving your creativity, preserving your curiosity, preserving your desire to learn. Our families were lifelong learners before it was taken away. Like we were geniuses, been geniuses, like abundance, flexing, the chains, the jewel, like know who you come from for real, not just the circumstances.
Say that again, please.
Know who you come from for real, not just the circumstances.
Mm.
Because to be clear, even this trauma is short-lived. We've been around a lot longer. This is not our history.
Yes.
It's not our history. Our lines aren't broken.
Mm-mm. Yeah, this is, and I know we're basically at time, but this is not our history. Our lines aren't broken. Coming back initially, you know, to
In beginnings.
on this call, like the past 2 years, that is what has been coming up for me more than anything. And even with the work I'm doing and what it's evolving into, coming back again to identity deaths. When our identity is so rooted in the circumstances and rooted in the wound of enslavement, we're not free. When ultimately we are free. And when I'm really interested in and embodying what it is to have an identity that is not in response to white supremacy, that's not confined to I'm Black and therefore this is my history. That's not even confined to when we're talking about trauma, that the trauma begins there, ends there, and that's the, rather than even looking at all the gifts, right? I think we're speaking about that a lot today, the gifts of what have come from. And like you said, that's a bloop in our history, right?
Like
that's a whole history
it
before
might be 1% of the past 50,000 years.
1%.
So we have to shift the conversation.
Yes, because that's where our power lies. It is a reclamation of our power to let that identity die, that we're limited to that. And going back to the continent for me a couple months ago was incredibly healing in that way as well. Like it again was like boom. You are not your identity is not limited to being a Black woman in America. It's not. Yes, that's part of it. But when I put that as, especially that definition being in minority, enslaved, not having access to as much wealth, it being harder to build the life of my dreams because I'm Black, all of those things. Please hear me. I'm not saying there's actual facts and reality and the systematic bullshit. But as soon as I'm too rooted in that identity, then I'm actually believing, guess what? It's going to be hard. It's hard. Money's not easy to come by. That white girl has it better than me because, her family's living off of my family's fucking free labor. And that's why she's able to do it and I'm not. There's a way that, yeah.
But also like high key, she's not really doing it because if you look at her numbers, she's not really doing it. She just has a pretty package.
Her presentation works, but is she really doing it right? Because they be contacting us on the side, like, can you help me? So it's, but do you know what I'm saying? And it's I'm still navigating as I allow old identities of myself to die off. And when I say die off, I mean it's an honoring as well, right? All of these identities and these ways that we've perceived ourselves has gotten us to this moment right now. It's an honoring. And what is the truth? Which is interesting again. No matter who your daddy was, your mom was, like, who are you? What are you? What are you?
So who you are, let's see, who are you? Who are you is a soul.
Exactly.
Like, we just have to be honest about that. You are a soul. And your soul has chosen to have a relationship with a particular mother. And by mother, I mean divine essence of a continent. And so for us, and this conversation is, and the book is going to be centered from my experience as an African
Yeah.
in the diaspora.
Thank
So, but our soul has a relationship and chose to be birthed through Mother Africa. There's a mother for South Africa. There's a mother for Europe. There are mothers, but we are speaking as children of our Mother Africa. So as Africans in America, this is not our history. Our lines aren't broken.
Amen. And I just saw a flash of your book being at my homecoming retreat center in Africa, right? For all of the women that come to be gifted. I can't wait. Oh my God.
All right. So thank you so much. We'll be back here again. Thank you to everybody who came for the inaugural live. I really appreciate it. We'll be back next week, same time, Tuesday at 10 a.m., God willing, of course, because, and we will pick up with dealing with those aspects of our lineages that we don't agree with, i.e., whether within the continent, because everybody didn't like everybody. There's one mother, but there are many daughters for regions. The daughters don't necessarily play nice together, right? As well as those who are, from birth of the mothers from other continents, and what that means, because I know I got a couple besides the European. So we'll start with that, and we'll see where the conversation goes. But I hope that you all really enjoyed this. Let's see, this was wonderful. Thank you. I love this. Thank you. See you next week. This is going to be powerful. Yes, it already is. Yes, yes, yes. And yeah, so put comments below as well. Any topics you would like us to cover. I'll be with Diahnna throughout the month. So post in the comments topics that you would like us to cover, any questions that are popping up, and I'll make sure to incorporate those in our conversations. And I think that's it. Anything else from you, Diahnna, before we go?
No, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you listening and being obedient, because I love this format. And I'm just excited to see more and more of what this month and these conversations unveil. Thank you. It's incredibly healing for me as well, specifically at this time, to be sharing and speaking into and having community in all of these things. So thank you.
Nice. What I will do, because so much just came up and I definitely want to make sure I'm responsible with the energy, is let's actually close with a few deep breaths to just settle in. And then I'll leave everybody with a contemplative question to sit with for the week to kind of anchor and keep the focus, because we talked about a lot of things that I'm sure touched on some triggering topics. So I don't want to just leave y'all hanging like that. Perfect. And sharing this all day. Thank you, Sharice. Appreciate it. All right. So sit up nice and tall. You can place your hands however you prefer, prayer over your heart, over your womb space, on your knees, whatever works for you. But definitely closing your eyes and bringing all of your attention, your energy, your focus into yourself, into your body. And just doing nice, slow, deep breaths, nothing too forced. And I want you to hold in your conscious awareness the intention of digesting all the energy that came up, letting it process through you easily and effortlessly. Knowing and understanding that you don't have to hold anything to remember. There's nothing that you have to resolve or fix. Just giving thanks for this wonderful meal of spiritual food and conversation. Taking the nourishment that you need, letting your soul itself determine what that is, and then easily releasing the rest. And as you go to return to your day and then the week ahead, allow yourself to sit with and work with this question of, who am I? And approach this question not with the intention of finding a single answer, but encouraging and allowing for a multiplicity of expression that your soul is having and embodying through you in your humanity in this life at this time. Remembering that you were here on purpose and in purpose. Not here to be reactive, but rather proactive. And remembering that there is so much more to you. You've only you've only barely scratched the surface. I'm giving thanks for that abundance. I give honor and thanks to all the souls who have joined us here live and those who will be watching on the recording. Thank you for your trust and your participation. This was a collective conversation. I know that it seems that it's just been happening between me and Diahnna, but this is a collective conversation. So thank you for your input in the spirit and in the comments. Thank you for our ancestors who have been coming through so strongly with your love and support and your empowerment. Thank you for continuing to watch over us and guide us and protect us on our path. And thank you to our souls. And thank you to the Great Spirit existence itself. And thank you to the mothers, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and the mother continents. Thank you. Thank you, Mother Africa. Thank you, Mother North America. Thank you, Mother Europe. All right. May we preserve our light and amplify it. Yay. Oh, 11:11. Spirit got jokes. All right. You feel good?
Amazing.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all again. Join us next week. Tell your friends and tell your friends and tell your friends. Share the video. It should be on YouTube like pretty soon. That's what's lovely about YouTube. Like the link gets generated immediately. So please do share and invite folks to join in the conversation. And let's continue on in the process of talking through this book. All right, y'all. Love you much and see you soon.